All right, so this is my wife's 2018 Ford Edge. I believe it's a SE. I got to look at the back again. Regardless, the brakes are going to be the same. So these are the rear brakes. You can see I've got the car up on a jack as well as two jack stands. There's one on either side. And what I do is I put my jack stands underneath and I take some of the pressure off of the jack, so it's setting on the jack stands, but not completely. So it's basically supported by all three. And of course, I give it the shake test. I always rock the car to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. I do have a 2x6 in front of the front wheel there because there's a slight decline to my driveway. So we're all safe here. I was doing a tire rotation last week when I was changing her oil, and she's only got 38,000 miles on this car. But we don't know what the previous owner had. We got this from CarMax, and we don't know if it was all city miles or what. So I was doing a tire rotation, and these brakes look pretty bad back here. You can see down here, there's not even 1/8 of an inch of material left there. And I don't want that to get down to no material left, because then we'll just start eating up these rotors. The rotors are not as smooth as I wanted them to be, but these are the rear brakes, so they're not doing the majority of the braking. So I think we'll leave the rotors as is for now, unless I find something crazy when I get in there. But looks like for now we're just going to change these pads out. So I'll show you the new pads that I've got. All right, so these are the new brake pads that I ordered from Amazon. They're Bendix copper-free brakes. They're the they should be, I thought that they were ceramic, but I don't know what the difference between ceramic and copper-free is. Anyways, I know Bendix is a very good name brand, and these are actually on sale for $25 instead of $40, so I got a good deal on them. Comes with new spring clip hardware in there, comes with some of this lubricant grease, and then, of course, your 4 brake pads, 2 for each side. So let's get the old ones out and make sure they match up with the new ones, and we'll get them replaced. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the rear brake caliper. Okay, so there's a bolt here and there's a bolt here that we need to remove. First, there's a dust cover that goes on there. You can just take it out by hand, get your little thumbnail in there. Take that out. Don't lose that, because you're going to want to put that back on for sure. And there's the bottom one. Take that out. Yours might be a little bit tighter, so you might have to get a little screwdriver in there, but mine were loose. And then there's the bolt in there. It's actually a 7mm. Where did I set my wrench? There it is. It's a 7mm Allen key, so that goes in there. And then if you need a little bit of extra leverage, what I do is I use a box end wrench and I put it on in the well, I don't drop it like that usually, but anyway, I put it on there like that, and that will give me a little extra leverage. So I'm going to use that to loosen those both up and get those out of there. Now remember, these bolts are facing away from you, so they loosen opposite than the way that they normally would. So instead of lefty-loosey on this one, we're going to go this direction, which is still lefty-loosey, but it just feels different than if the bolts pointed towards you. All right, so I've got these 2 bolts loose. I backed them all the way out, and you can see they're back there and back there. So the next thing we're going to have to do is release this clip here, this retaining clip. I'm just going to get my screwdriver in there and just pop it off. There it is. Not sure if it comes with a new one or not. Oh yeah, there's the new clips right there that came with the pads. So we'll be putting a new one in there, but I'll hold on to that one until I get the new one on and make sure it's the right fit and everything. All right, so now that I've got that retaining clip out of there, we can pull the caliper out. This should just slide straight out. It's being a little bit stubborn, so I'm going to use my pry bar, and I'm going to get it right in here, and I'm going to pull it out that way. I might have to pry a little bit at the bottom too, so it comes out straight, but I'll be right back. All right, so the caliper is I slid the caliper out. It's right here on top, and you can see this one pad stayed in front. The front pad is here, and then the other pad is here in the back. So that'll slide out like that. You can see there's the old pad, pretty worn. I'll show it to you next to the new pad here in a minute. And then there's the one that was on the front side there. All right, the next thing we got to do is we have to compress this piston here on the caliper, because the new brake pads are thicker and we want them to, the new ones are thicker, so this has to be compressed so that they'll fit in there and fit back on over the rotor. Okay, I've got a C-clamp on here. There's different tools for this. I was a little bit concerned about clamping on this because it looks like it's plastic, but it's solid underneath there, so I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to go really slowly, and if I hear any kind of cracking at all, I'm going to stop, of course, but I think it will take the clamping pressure. So when I start screwing this caliper head will spin too. You can see it spins, so I'm gonna compress it. Now, one thing you gotta do though, before you start compressing that, you gotta go up to the hood and you gotta release the cap off the master cylinder. So I've actually already taken the cap off, but it will be here, right above the battery. And just take the cap off so that the extra fluid that you push back into the reservoir has a place to go. Once you're done, of course, put this cap back on before you drive. All right, so now I've got it completely compressed. You can see it's flush here, and it won't go any further. This actually worked out really well. There is a specialty tool that you can use for this that actually allows this to spin. You can see this disc here kind of spinning with the clamp. My old C-clamp, though, actually worked really well, just as well as any specialty tool. I don't feel like there was too much clamping pressure up there at the top, so that's fine. There's no, you know, it didn't hurt it at all. But if I back this off a little bit, let's see here. One second, I can't do this with one hand. Okay, so you can see now I've got my C-clamp off, but this C-clamp head has a little bit of a texture to it, or whatever you want to call that, and that actually allowed it to turn that cylinder as I depressed it. So this will spin in circles as you're depressing it, compressing it, whatever you want to call that, which is exactly what you want it to do. And now it's fully compressed, so I can put the new brake pads in. All right, so here's the old brake pads. With the new brake pads, you can see there's a considerable amount more thickness to the new ones. And you can see all the tabs match up, so that's good. We know we have the right ones. This one has a little bit of a channel in the middle, and I believe that's for a couple things. One, it helps it cool the surface a little bit more, and also any material that's flaking off, like your brake dust as it flakes off, I believe that just gives it a chance to fall out. So a little bit better quality than OEM, most likely. But let's get these new ones put in. All right, so you can see the one with the little spring here on the back. That goes in from the back side, and that just slides over the two little tabs here and here, and just sets in there nicely. And then the other one sets right in there, and you'll kind of have to hold it in place while you slide the caliper back over the rotor into the bracket. All right, so if you've done everything right, it should go into place really nicely. So I've just set it over here, and you can slide it in, and you'll see that you'll just slide it in until these bolts line up with the holes they go back into, and you'll be able to thread those back in. So there is one thing that I'm gonna do before I tighten the bolts back down. You can slide these bolts all the way out. They've kind of been a little rubber boot here, and that's what it looks like. And that allows the whole mechanism to slide back and forth. It slides back and forth on this smooth part. So we're gonna clean this up, and we're gonna put some grease on it. So again, you can just pull it out. You kind of have to get in around this rubber boot. Let's see, I used two hands to get the other one out, but you basically slide it all the way out. It'll kind of has a little bit of a suction to it, and you can slide it out. And then the new pad kit came with some grease, so I'm gonna put some grease on this smooth side, and then I'm gonna slide it back in there, and we're gonna tighten everything up. All right, so I've lubricated those slide bolts. I'm sure there's a better term for them than slide bolts, but I've reinserted, tightened them down, I've torqued them, and I've reapplied these little caps in the back, top and bottom. Last thing I have to do before I'm done is put this spring in, the new spring. So basically, you're just gonna get it in there, put it in the bottom hole, and then we're going to get it in that hole, and we're going to kind of bend it around there. So now it's in place, but it doesn't look all the way, so I'm going to do a little tap with a hammer just to make sure it's solid in there, and it looks good. So we'll go around and we'll do the same exact thing to the other side, and then we're done. All right, so I've got the passenger side one done. Just gotta I've got the caps and everything back on just like we did. I'm going to coat back up here to the front. I'm going to retighten this cap here. Later today, after I get this car on level ground, because remember my driveway's not quite level, I'm going to park this on level ground, and I'm going to check the fluid level here. But for now, we're just going to put the cap back on. And now I just got to put the wheels on, retorque the lugs, and take this thing for a test drive. That's really all there is to it. All I spent here for this brake job was 25 bucks for the parts, less than an hour's worth of time. I could probably have done this if I wasn't trying to film it and everything. I probably could have done this in 45 minutes or less, maybe even half an hour. If you've worked on cars before, it goes a little bit quicker and you have all your tools readily accessible. But anyway, yeah, not much to it. 25 bucks, less than an hour of your time. Well worth it. You know it's done right, and you did it yourself, so you can have some pride in it. All right, guys, we'll see you guys on the next one.